60, I should have a poem. So I wrote myself a poem. And nobody knew I was doing this. I think I finished it in February.
Oh my goodness.
So I've been sitting on this for quite a long time. Karen didn't know anything about
I
it.
didn't.
And she's heard none of this.
Oh, I love
So here's a poem for Paul's 60th, for your listening enjoyment. I hear Paul is turning 60, an achievement, we are told. Is it really so impressive that he got to be that old? Well, just contemplate the others who have never crossed that line. Yes, Van Gogh and Buddy Holly only add to 59. And 60 is important. Every day reveals its power. 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. Neodymium is 60, that's an elemental truth. 60 homers in a season was the record by Babe Ruth. US 60 is a highway with extraordinary reach. Yes, from Brenda, Arizona, you can make Virginia Beach. And there might be 60 people who ignored you back in school, but then later sent a friend request once Facebook made it cool. It's the diamond anniversary if you celebrate in style. 60 milligrams of morphine, you'll be sleeping for a while. It's the one-game scoring record for the Celtics' Larry Bird. It can cost that much to fill your tank. Now, isn't that absurd? It's an athlete's resting heart rate, but a failure on a test. It is Largo on a metronome and Dolly Parton's chest. If it's wattage of a light bulb, you will have no need to dim it. It's the driving speed for Brother Mark when 70's the limit.
Oh.
Let's consider Paul at 60 then. He's idiosyncratic. He's occasionally dogmatic, but not overly dramatic. He detests the bureaucratic, likes his melodies chromatic. I will tell you all his story in a way that's systematic. We will start at the beginning, since we do not know the end. Back when Paul arrived quite early, which would soon become a trend. Even then, he was obedient and took his mom's instruction to give to them by just 3 days an income tax deduction. As time went on, his parents feared that something was not right. They could not ignore the evidence that Paul was not too bright. He had trouble playing patty cake and was not even able to identify the others who were with him at the table. They agreed to have him tested maybe later in the fall after Papa's 100th birthday jamboree in Montreal. But there, Paul proved his cleverness, becoming a barbarian and stealing bits of candy from this sightless centenarian. At Whiteford Elementary School, the issue reappeared when Miss Luvio, a sweetheart, this opinion volunteered. Clearly, Paul will not amount to much, and if he were my son, I wouldn't just go home and cry, I'd also buy a gun. But that's just academics, you might come to his defense. Perhaps he had a different skill? Don't keep us in suspense. Well, he did encourage others to accomplish, I'll confide. David's Manischewitz record is Paul's greatest source of pride. Paul was sadly prone to accidents. This caused a lot of drama. Here are just a few examples from this catalog of trauma. He was dropped upon his head once, though that sounds a bit bizarre, and he put his hand through glass and was run over by a car. Most teens you meet can't wait to drive, and Paul was no exception. He thought that he was ready, but it proved a self-deception. He went to take his driver's test with hope that he'd prevail, but he crushed a cone and had to moan, I do not like to fail. Was he popular in high school? Sure, girls always want to date all the guys who spend their extra time on quiz bowl and debate. No, he wasn't an Adonis, that's the truth both then and now, but at least he played piano in the Northview Cats Meow. After high school, it was Harvard, where his patty cake improved. So sufficiently proficient, even Luvio approved. Then to U of M Ann Arbor for a medical degree, and of course his Jewish mother was as pleased as she could be. How could he be a Wolverine? He loves Ohio State. If you seek a cogent answer, you will have a lengthy wait. But his love for Buckeye football never wavered in the least. When he made the move to Michigan, he found that it increased. He went one day to visit Liz, his high school friend devout, and he met a lovely lady, Liz's roommate, it turned out. Paul knew at once he wanted a relationship to grow, but Evanston's quite distant from Ann Arbor, as you know. A reason to return is what he needed to produce. Northwestern's intern program might provide him that excuse. Perhaps they'd grant an interview. He called and they said yes. and he soon returned to Evanston. His scheme was a success. That visit just confirmed what Paul suspected long before, that Karen was a woman he could readily adore. And once she saw herself, his newfound patty-caking skill, when Paul proposed to marry her, she sweetly said, "I will." They settled in Ann Arbor. Paul had 4 more years of training. Though call nights were quite challenging, his marriage was sustaining. They knew they wanted children, only had to settle when, and soon they welcomed Derek, and then Ellie, and then Ben. He stayed and got the job for which he always had been reaching, a lovely combination of both patient care and teaching. The work was very worthy, but he found with some despair that the job was sadly paired with a relentless loss of hair. Remember that performance in the North U, Cat's Meow? Well, he didn't stop composing when he took his final bow. This musical expression was so special and rewarding that Paul finally resolved to make a studio recording. Fine-tuning was that disc, and once his foot was in the door, he composed and he recorded till he had a dozen more. Are his albums in demand? Well, just as much as gonorrhea. But surprisingly, he's popular with people in Korea. Paul is prone to fits of laughter, a propensity well known, and the laughter is even louder if the joke has been his own. There is sometimes apprehension when it has too much duration, as his family tends to fear that it will cause asphyxiation. What features might we highlight when describing his appearance? I have emphasized already that his hair lacked perseverance. He's worn glasses now for many years. The contacts disappeared. He used to have a mustache, but could never grow a beard. Paul isn't that adventurous when choosing what to eat. If you offer him some lobster, he will get up from his seat. Give him mushrooms, he'll attack. Olives green, but never black. He'll refuse some avocado with tomatoes as a snack. He prefers a corned beef sandwich or a heaping bowl of chips, and has welcomed each Rice Krispies treat that ever passed his lips. And because he does accumulate a vast caloric debt, he spends hours on the treadmill hoping workouts will offset. He eats popsicles for breakfast. He eats seasoning from soup. He eats only iceberg lettuce. He eats Skittles by the scoop. And he wants his food cooked thoroughly, from hamburgers to toast. It's the well-done chocolate ice cream that perplexes me the most. I'll defend his choice in clothing, though I know there's dispute. Only once, that I recall, was he caught mowing in a suit. But his color scheme's predictable. There's never much surprise. He is famous at the hospital for purple shirts and ties. Paul is rather sentimental. He is often moved to tears, the arrival of his children and his grandkids through the years, and with poignant scenes in movies as they play out on the screens, and just maybe when the Buckeyes lose a game to Wolverines. Paul has television programs that he uses to unwind. Shows like 30 Rock and Frasier and Columbo come to mind. And because he knows Miss Luvio is watching from afar, he extends his education playing lectures in the car. And what else is fun for Paul? To throw a frisbee or a ball when the sun has eased the coolness on a weekend in the fall. He's a fan of playing poker, but the guys know he might scold him if a dealer says too often that he chooses Texas Hold'em. And music is essential, fundamental to his soul. We don't have time to mention every piece that he'd extol. The Sinfonia Concertante is a favorite I'll disclose, and the Clarinet Quintet makes an appearance when it snows. He'll declare, if you insist, that he likes Chopin more than Liszt, and has learned now how to tolerate the dissonance of Mahler 8. He knows and likes Rossini, but he venerates Puccini. He will play his Bach on and off, but also loves Rachmaninoff. But Paul also likes Jim Croce, Billy Joel, and Peggy Lee. The Beatles and Scott Joplin make him happy as can be. But his family members struggle with the shame-inducing knowledge that he has a love of Supertramp still lingering from college. For significant occasions, Paul appears to feel the need to compose a poem to celebrate. It's almost guaranteed. I may have found the reason, though I know it's no excuse. With his medical diploma, does he think he's Dr. Seuss? Paul's been given several nicknames one might hear around his house. There are Bumpus, Peeb, and Pimble. There's Pulfy, there's Spouse. Paul prefers that house quite chilly, but not everyone agrees. So he's asked if he might warm it up to 32 degrees. If he's still in bed at 5 o'clock, he calls that sleeping in. If you make him go to Cedar Point, it's best that he not spin. The trends in English usage make him tearful and bereft. He's afflicted by a phobia of ever turning left. Paul's really not a traveler, so no Istanbul or Rome. His philosophy is Dorothy's, that there's no place quite like home. If he got to spend some time at any spot upon the map, You might find him in his favorite chair, reclining for a nap. Paul is grateful for his family, and he knows just what he's got with Karen, Derek, Amber, and with Ellie, Ben, and Scott. Little Miriam and Yussie are the youngest generation. You will never locate anywhere a cuter combination. Let's not forget his parents. They've been loving, they've been nice. Thank goodness that they didn't take Miss Luvio's advice. And we must include his siblings in this poem before it ends, for Anita, Mark, and David are a stellar group of friends. So many other people have been meaningful to Paul that this poem would be too lengthy if I tried to list them all. But Paul's made an offer and he hopes that they'll agree. He welcomes them for patty cake whenever they are free. So there you have the story as of 2022, though you may be disappointed, it's the best that I can do. I'm limited completely by the man we've been exploring. If Paul's life had been more interesting, the poem would be less boring.
Oh. Bravo, bravo.
Thank you very much.
Pip,
Good, good, good.